What does it mean to be a brave warrior of the sea? What exactly is bravery? The Oxford Dictionary primarily defines brave as the following: ready to face and endure danger or pain, showing courage. And so what exactly is courage? And again, Oxford defines courage as the ability to do something that frightens one, bravery. In order to understand bravery, one must understand its opposite, fear. Nearly everyone in the real world deals with fear, but the most profound thing that I've learned about fear is that there is no escaping it. It is an enemy you will battle until you die. But knowing that fear is inescapable is exactly why bravery is of the utmost necessity in life. Fear is the thing that paralyzes, while bravery is the thing that frees. Fear is the thing that chooses mediocre, while bravery is the thing that takes the risk of chance, a chance that could bring greatness or defeat. Fear always leads to regret, while bravery always leads to knowing exactly what it's possible for you to become. And so I want to offer up a question: can you truly be brave without experiencing fear? Because the two are not mutually exclusive. In order to be brave, you must overcome your fears, which means that your fears were present in the first place. In order to be brave, you must accept and understand your own fears, and be able to act despite them. I think that many would say that Usopp is a coward. And they would say this because Usopp wears his fears on his sleeve. Usopp is almost always scared or frightened. But cowardice is not defined as the feeling of fear. Cowardice is described in the absence of bravery, being unable to escape your own fears, being unable to overcome them. And so in this regard, I would argue that Usopp is not a coward. He may feel and understand fear more than anyone else, but he continues to triumph over that fear. Usopp already is a brave warrior of the sea. He just doesn't know it. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Usopp may be the bravest warrior on the sea. The more fear that you feel, the harder it is to overcome that fear. The more fear that you feel, the braver you must become. Usopp's ideal of bravery stems to how he views the giants of Elbaf, specifically Dory and Brogy. This is what Usopp said in the Little Garden arc. Let's say that there's a metaphorical flag raised in their hearts, and those flags are more important than their very lives. They don't want their flags to be broken no matter what, and so to protect that flag, they continue this fight for over 100 years. Can't you see, this is a real battle of pride between two warriors. This is it. This is what I meant by brave warrior of the seas. I want to become a proud warrior just like them. But what I think Usopp doesn't understand is that in this fight, neither Dory nor Brogy are being brave. At least not in the way that Usopp expects them to be brave. Neither giant possesses any fear of death. In fact, they revel in the opportunity to die honorably. And so, as stated earlier, how can one be brave if they feel no fear? This is more so a battle of pride. And so what is pride's definition? Again, from Oxford: a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of one's close associates, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. So given this definition and the story, one might argue that what the two giants fear more than anything else is losing their pride. And so in order to be brave, one must overcome their fears. And so in this case, you might argue that Dory and Brogy, in order to overcome their fear, must overcome and put aside their pride. I believe it is intrinsically more brave to stop fighting than continue forward in this particular case. But yet the giants can't put aside their pride. They can't overcome their fear of losing it. So in this sense, one might say that Usopp is far braver than they are. What I don't think that Usopp truly understands is what it means to be a brave warrior of the sea and what it is that he's truly capable of. Usopp himself bears the burden of fear that is really uncomparable to any other character. And the feeling of fear is something that you cannot control. And not all fears are created equal, and not every person fears the same things. As illustrated earlier, Dory and Brogy perhaps do feel fear, but this is of a fear that Usopp himself doesn't understand. Because Usopp sees them as having already overcome that which Usopp himself specifically fears: injury and death. But the giants do not fear injury or death, so they are not brave in the act of fighting. Whereas every moment that Usopp fights and continues to strive towards his dreams and goals for himself is an act of bravery. But does a single act or multiple acts of bravery make someone brave? This is not something that can be answered with definitions, and is something that is inherent to one's own heart and one's own perspective. In Usopp's case, it doesn't matter if other people perceive him as brave. Usopp wants to see himself as brave. This is Usopp's dream. And so what would it take for Usopp to understand that which I see very clearly? I think Usopp must overcome his fears until the very end. But there is no end to feeling fear. So in that sense, Usopp must continue to be brave for his entire life. But at some point during the story, Usopp must actually accomplish his dream, as is so clearly set up in Oda's story. So if Usopp never becomes his ideal of what it means to be a brave warrior, someone must, at the very end of the story, explain to him that he is already the ideal that he envisioned. Someone needs to tell him and explain to him that over the course of the story, no one has been more brave than you, Usopp. You have been, are, and will continue to be the bravest warrior on the sea. And so guys, I think I will finish this video with a little example of what I determined to be Usopp's bravery. In Dressrosa, Usopp had the very important role of eliminating Sugar, because both Trafalgar Law and Luffy were unaware of her powers, and she was very close to turning them into toys. So Usopp says this: "Do you really get how serious of a situation we're in? Earlier, Robin's toyification sent chills down my spine. I didn't even realize that I had forgotten all about her. If he gets touched by Sugar, I'm going to end up forgetting about Luffy in the same way. For my Nakama to disappear and for me to not even be aware of that fact. Sorry, I ain't gonna let that happen. I'll stop her at any and all costs." And then Kinemon says, "But Usopp Dono, be that as it may, this distance is simply far too great to attempt any feat of marksmanship. It is all but impossible. The palace is so far away, and only now was I even able to finally visually confirm its existence. On top of that, our enemy is within its walls. We cannot even see her." Usopp then goes on to say, "Doesn't matter, those two, they aren't even picking up their Dendenmushi. We don't have any more time. I'm a sniper. Being a backup is where I shine the brightest. Unseen, unheard, I shoot down my enemies while protecting my Nakama. My target is on the other side of these walls. If I miss, Luffy will die." In these scenes is clearly described how Usopp is struggling to overcome his fear that if he failed, it could result in the deaths of the people that he cares for most. I think the anime illustrated this even further by taking this scene into more detail. In it, he even envisions a scene where he fires the shot he misses and Luffy is turned into a toy, which in that case Usopp would never remember him. But you guys of course know that that is not actually what happened. Rather than succumb to his fear and admit defeat, Usopp triumphed over it. But anyway guys, that's all I really want to talk about today. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree and why. Share your thoughts, like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video, although I'm not sure how you could dislike it, but I guess you could. Subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.